G'day guys and welcome. My name's Michael and I am the Dead Aussie Gamer, here to share with you my tips, tricks, ideas and strategies for playing and running tabletop role-playing games. Today's video we're going to be discussing how to design rivals for your players. Now, rivals are slightly different to your typical villain or antagonist for your game. A rival won't necessarily become an obstacle, but they provide a challenge, something for your group to compete against. This could be a rival group of heroes who are trying to achieve the quest that you are. This could be a rival gang member who is trying to outdo your party's rogue by becoming the most renowned thief in all the land. Or alternatively, we could go the old-fashioned way, and they are simply people who have a grudge against you and an axe to grind against one or multiple characters at your game. Whatever the case is, rivals are very unique as villains go because rivals have a more personal connection to the story that your players are trying to write. If you imagine your typical antagonist for a game, their primary goal is to exist within the confines of the story's narrative and to progress the story forward. This could be, I am the evil villain, I am trying to get this rare artifact so that I can take over the world, mwahaha, and that's what they focus on. A rival isn't about that. A rival is, hey, there's this group of people. To heck with those people, let's ruin their day. And that's what it's all about. That's what rivals are all about. It's connected to the group. Now, number one, rivals can make great B-Begs or big bad evil guys or, the main villains. They can make good main villains. However, I find that rivals really thrive in situations where they work as an aside to the story. So you've got the main narrative that goes through, the main story, but then every now and then you take a little break, you kind of pace your game by giving people a breather from the doom and gloom of whatever story you're telling, and allow them to pursue this smaller, more manageable quest involving a group of rivals. That at least is how I feel they work best. So today we're going to be looking at just all the things that I can do in order to show you how to design a rival group or a rival character for your campaign. These are the following tips, so follow along if you will. Number one, target. It's important to know that each of these rivals, however many you're making, need to have a target focus within the group of players that you have. So rather than simply saying, oh, these are just rivals to the group, try and design characters that have a distinct connection to one or more people at the table. For example, my character was born in the same town as one of the rivals. So what happens is we developed a rivalry because we were once best friends. However, you went on to become a hero and I had to live in the slums and become an orphan. While I was hearing stories of how successful you were and how wondrous the entire kingdom thought you were, I was lost and left here to rot. And I want to prove to the world and to myself that I'm better than you. That's a good rival story and it targets one particular character. Alternatively, if you have a group scenario, the target could very well simply be the whole group in terms of let's go with a competitive gang. So we've got a group of rogues for our players. They're kind of shifty. They do wheeling and dealings in the back of, kind of evil, seedy dealerships. And on the other hand, you've got another group of evil gang members who these guys are, the players are pushing into my turf. Oh, I've got to get rid of you. If you do have a group v group rivalry, try and create one character that hates or either compliments or opposes one of the other players that you've got. This way, everyone kind of feels that sense of attachment to a particular villain. Every single person feels like their story, their characters are being valued. And of course, everyone gets to enjoy no matter how many members of that rival group appear. It also, to a lesser degree, allows players to know who is dealing with what. If I'm dealing with a rival group and I'm the big strong guy and the big strong guy's rival shows up, while I've got my group backing it, it's a good sign for the other players to go, oh, that's his rival. Okay, you take care of this guy. And it creates a nice platform where players will be able to communicate with each other that allow them to kind of have those nice role-playing moments. All right. Step 2, self-motivation. Now, your rival needs a motive. They need to have a reason to go picking on these player characters, because if they don't, then they're just NPCs that get washed over. You need to have something that's going to tie them to either their story, the background, or in a lesser case, maybe this is something that is developed, and I'll get into that in a second. If you go to a background, remember it's important to know what your player's background is. You can't really design a self-motivation that doesn't weave into their background if you don't know what it is. Take the time to get to know your player characters, and you'll usually be fine there. If by chance you are tied together in the story form, that means your connection isn't to the individual character, but to the story as a whole, and the group provides a rivalry to that. Usually this is great with objectives-based things or time-based things. To a lesser degree, reputation also serves a good inspiration for those type of adventures. Lastly is if you are creating a character who is, well, incidentally becomes a rival. I've had plenty of situations where my players have engaged NPCs and turned out to love them. They've spared them in the heat of the moment because they want to see them again. If that's the case, turn them into rivals and use them again. Have them seeking revenge for whatever it is the players did, or proving to themselves that they are strong enough to not be defeated a second, third, fourth, fifth, or more times. The next one, target motivation. Now, if you have targeted a particular character, it is important to remember that you need to then motivate that character to engage in the rivalry. If your player is not engaging it, then it's not really going to be working as a rival. Know what your player's goals are, and you can have your rival work against that. So rather than the main plot, you'd be working against the individual. Let's take one of my characters, Jaggerjaw. Jaggerjaw's a fantastic character. He is a great big shark who is the bosun of a pirate ship. He is also a builder who is trying to prove to everyone that he is not just some sort of mindless killing machine. In this case, what I would do to target his motivation is, well, if his goal is to prove that he's not a mindless killing machine, then we need a mindless killing machine. Something that is possibly framing Jaggerjaw for whatever violence happens to be happening in the time. So create a Shah Khan character, and this Shah Khan is murdering people randomly, and he's claiming to be Jaggerjaw, or at least he's not correcting anyone. Jaggerjaw would then become motivated to find out who the hell is doing this and is running his good name through the dirt. That's what we mean when we talk about target motivation. Try and find something. Next up is party motivation. Now, all too often when we create rivals, party members are very much in the mindset of, that's a your problem thing. You go off and you do your thing. If that happens, I guess it does work to a lesser degree, but it does split your attention as a GM. It means that you have to go deal with this rivalry story while at the same time giving your other players something to do. And that usually doesn't work well. What you want to do is you want to make it so that this character, while he has motivated the target to go and do something about him, you also want to kind of encourage the party to also be rallying behind whatever this person's doing. So for example, let's take the fake Jaggerjaw story. If fake Jaggerjaw is going around killing people, that's fine. Jaggerjaw will go deal with that. But that doesn't really interest Flick or Lahuna or any of the other people from the Ghost of Saltmarsh. So how do we motivate them? Well, what if a trusted ally, such as the bartenders over at the Empty Net, was suddenly attacked by the vicious Jaggerjaw lookalike? All of a sudden, yes, Jaggerjaw still has that personal targeted motivation, but now the group is out for vengeance. Like, this guy wrecked our friend's bar. This guy ruined the people who actually were kind to us. We need to stop this person. That is how you motivate the party. You find a common factor, and you have the rival then do something to instigate it. So unlike the self-motivation or the target motivation, it's not something you can really do pre-engagement, I guess. When the rivals engage, that's when you want to build that party motivation. All right, defeat. Now, the reason I put a question mark on this defeat is because the character needs to be defeated. Like, that's a goal. There's lots of different ways, lots of different methods that you can play the story. You can have them win a victory, and then the group needs to pick themselves back up. You can have them show up and be defeated by the players. There are countless stories that go through this. But the important thing is, how do we stop players from just killing this character and wiping it out? Now, there is some Deus Ex Machina, or, just some GM fiddly-faddly, that will involve making this person live. This could be them receiving backup from a mysterious benefactor. It could be them having a contingent spell or a backup plan. It could simply be that the character changes gears mid-battle and decides to vacate. It might even be that the group has been motivated enough, or at least the target has been motivated enough, to spare their life. The key element to making a good rival is making someone who is A, not so much of a threat that they need to kill him, and B, someone who is at least entertaining and engaging enough that they will look forward to and want to see more of this villain. I created a game based on the Jigsaw movies. I loved the Saw movies. That was one of my favorite, but not because I love the gore, mind you. I just love the idea, the philosophy behind it. There was actually a deep connection in the narrative for Saw 1 and partially through Saw 2. And then again at Saw 7, but, let's not talk about that. That's a whole other video. The important thing is I created a character that was inspired by Jigsaw. He would leave clues and puzzles and trivia and put them in death traps that they would then need to escape, usually by sacrificing someone or some part of the character. Not physically, but just, you have to burn your treasured photographs of your family because it's the only reason why you can't be a hero is because you're too busy worrying about returning home to your family. Whatever it is. The problem is that every time I ran the scenario that involved him, everyone just grew tired. They basically turned around and went, "Oh, God, it's this guy again. Yes, we know, you're not here. This is a death trap. Oh, no, big surprise. Oh, look, you've kidnapped my grandma." They stop caring after a certain point. So repetition can be a great thing and it can be an enemy. So what I'm suggesting here, in a nutshell, with that example, is you want to have someone who can be defeated, but who the group will look forward to revisiting. Conclusion. This is the last bit. It is important to remember that every good story, every good narrative needs to have a sound conclusion, and your rival does as well. This is probably the closest thing I'm going to say people should get to a DMPC. What happens at the game is what changes and shifts your rival, shifts them inherently, If your group is kind to them and shows them a better path, they might redeem themselves. If the group is, however, quite brutal and uncaring, they might never change. They might always be enemies. Maybe the group decides they've had enough and try to kill them. At which point, you need to also embrace that as well. Don't be afraid to go with what the group is giving you as feedback. If they're telling you they've had enough, then come up with that conclusion. Make it something that's going to be memorable and something fun. Because that's what they are. Rivals are so much fun, and they're really, really good for, like I said, allowing your players to delve into their character's backstory and really explore it. And that's why you want to be using these guys. All right, thank you so much for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, of course, as always, please share it around, subscribe, do all those things. Check out the links below. I have a Patreon. Sadly, it has been a little bit quiet, but there's very good reason for that. We are going to be coming back as soon as I can get hold of a designer, fingers crossed, and then we'll be returning with a bunch of shows, some private videos on the Patreon, and many, many more. Till then, however, I invite anyone on the Patreon to come and reach out to me directly by heading to my Discord channel, also in the link description below, and just giving me a good old @DeadAussieGamer. And if you need personal or private lessons or things that you would like to run through for your campaign, I am more than happy to make some time and chat with you directly. So, yeah, be sure to check out Patreon. Alright, guys, till next time, as always, from me to you, game hard or die trying. Bye, guys!